the searchers I seek, the wisdom that they speak, the lessons that they teach, just a searcher like.
Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation and packing for walking the road to Santiago, as well as tips, tricks and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. This week we're talking to Andrew Baker. Tell us where you are in the USA, Andrew.
I am in Austin, Texas. If you're familiar with it, it's known for its music, its food, its outdoor scene. It's a good little town.
South by Southwest.
Absolutely. There you go. You know a little something already.
I like my music, and I know Austin, Texas has got a really, really good reputation, not only for good music, but also for very, very friendly people.
We try to extend the Texan hospitality to all those visitors, and we try to make it a good place to visit.
So you're a native Texan then?
Yes, sir. Born and raised, one of the few these days with so many transplants moving to Austin, but it's a great place to live. It was a great place to grow up.
Great stuff. Okay, talking of great places, I want you to imagine that we are sat on the Cape at Finisterre looking at the sun come down, and we just met, and I'm going to bring up the topic of conversation that most pilgrims always talk about, and that is, why did you first decide to walk the Camino de Santiago? Take us back to the exact time and place when you made that decision.
Well, like a lot of pilgrims, something dramatic happened in my life. And my fiance, she left. And like a lot of pilgrims you'll meet on the Camino, I was experiencing some heartache. And the exact moment that it entered my brain, it kind of just entered completely randomly. There was one day where I was going through the breakup and I was really upset. And to be honest, I was kind of crying myself to sleep, and I hadn't thought of the Camino in years. And as I was kind of fading asleep, I thought of it all of a sudden, and I ended up dreaming of it. And the next morning, I messaged my sister, who had spent some time in Spain, and I told her about this idea. And by 11 a.m., I was at work, and I bought a ticket to Bayonne, France. I bought my ticket to France, and I committed to the Camino. I walked into my boss's office. I was a sports radio producer at the time.
Right. And
I told him, sir, in 4 weeks, it's going to be my last day, and I'm going to go on Camino. And
right, there's quite a few things to unpack there, Andrew. The first thing is,
absolutely,
let's not dwell too much on the past, but I'm really sorry to hear that you had to go through that. But it sounds like you've moved on and you're better and stronger for it because you got to do a Camino. So let's not dwell on that one. The second thing I wanted to bring up was, how did you hear about it the first time? I mean, you'd obviously heard about the Camino before you dreamt of it. So where did you first hear of it and how?
Growing up, me and my dad, we did a lot of backpacking. Our dream was always to go hike the Appalachian Trail here in the States, or one of the big trails here in the U.S., the Continental Divide Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail. And in our interest of that, we learned about different long hikes throughout the world, and the Camino was one of them. I later learned more about it through the movie The Way. Through some vlogs or blogs, I read more about it, but I hadn't thought about it or even said the name in years. And so the way it came to me is pretty miraculous, and I'm not one to really believe in that. I'm somewhat of a non-believer, and so the whole process of it just entering my mind is something that I really had no explanation for, to be honest.
And what was that?
It just came calling. It's really
was it just in your dream? You never heard of it, and you just.
I just hadn't thought of it in years.
Right.
And there's no explanation of it just coming to me.
Right.
And before the Camino, I wasn't really a believer in spirituality, but it's since walking the Camino, it's hard not to get caught up, in the spirituality of it, whether you're a believer or not, or regardless of what,
Can I just
faith.
clarify, when you say believer, are you talking about Christianity or just in spirituality in general?
Just in spirituality in
Okay,
general,
right.
it's something I never paid much. I never gave much thought or invested much, I don't know, faith
Belief in
into.
it.
Or
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, if anything's going to do that, it could definitely be the Camino, because there's obviously a very deep esoteric side to that. And we can come to that a little bit later on. So you said you phoned up your sister, right? If I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah. She's
after
been
your dream, so what, it's really nice. It's not often you hear these kind of stories. A lot of people say, well, I saw the movie The Way, and yeah, it looked good, and there's nothing wrong with that, but this is the stuff of dreams. This is stuff of Hollywood movies here we're talking, Andrew. It come to you in a dream. What did you dream of? Was it people snoring in the albergs? Was it smelly feet from boots? What was it?
No, I thought of just getting away and healing, and that
Okay,
was
nice.
the feeling, getting away and kind of testing myself, maybe rediscovering myself. I think in a relationship, you become so entwined with another human, with another soul,
Absolutely.
that you kind of lose yourself a little bit. Not that it's a negative thing, but I needed to find myself. I needed to test myself and kind of channel that inner adventurer that maybe had been dormant for years.
Right. And what did you say to your sister then? How did she react?
Well, during her time in university, she spent several semesters in Spain and Madrid and Barcelona, and so she was familiar with the Camino, and it was always a dream of hers to walk it. And so when I brought it up, she was absolutely supportive. She ended up speaking to my mother after that and my brothers, and kind of explained what kind of experience this was. And I think once she did that, the entire family became extremely supportive. And I think they understood it was just going to be a way to possibly fast track the healing process at that point.
Okay. So let's fast forward then from making the decision to actually packing and getting ready to go. Imagine you're back there and you've learned a few things from actually going on the road. Were you to do it tomorrow, what would be the first three things on your kit list, aside from the obvious, your backpack, your boots, and say your socks?
Well, it's funny how the simple things become gold on the Camino. For me, Vaseline or any kind of petroleum jelly, that ended up being complete gold. Whether it was used on my hips to avoid chafing and those nether regions, putting on your feet every morning, Vaseline or petroleum jelly was definitely gold. I would highly recommend that. In the beginning of the Camino, I tried to use different talcum powders. I used Gold Bond drying powder, and that didn't work as well. But petroleum jelly definitely was one. Um, I think also you got to invest in some high quality underwear. This is going back to the chafing. This is something that I have battled
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Especially if you're doing
So
it in July like you did.
yeah, absolutely. If you're going to be out there in the heat, expect to sweat. Fortunately, it wasn't too big of a difference in temperature from here in Texas during the summer to, northern Spain in the middle of the summer. But definitely underwear, high quality underwear, something that dries quickly. You pretty much want all your clothing to dry quickly. You're going to be washing it and hanging it up, and you're going to have even in the summer, you're going to have some damp days where you really got to take advantage of every minute of sunlight to make sure your clothes are dry the next day. And then I'd probably say the one thing that really helped me out was, and this sounds odd, but it was also kind of a luxury item. I had a little solar powered battery bank. And it sounds odd, having something electronic that was absolutely necessary, but I ended up lending that charger out to so many people to charge their phones. And nowadays, your phone is not just the way you communicate with the world, but it's a lot of times your camera, your video camera, a way you journal, a way you learn about which albergue you're going to find next. And when you're using your phone, like a lot of modern pilgrims are, you tend to eat up a lot of juice. So that little solar powered battery bank that I would just use attached to a carabiner on the back of my backpack turned out to be a high quality item. Some old school pilgrims may not be about having several electronics, but it really was a lifesaver for me.
Listen, one of the biggest pain points you see when you get to the albergues is the scramble for plug sockets. Now, if you've just taken that pain point away for yourself and all of your fellow pilgrims, I think you're going to be one of the most popular people on the Camino. So that solar-powered battery pack, that is a fantastic tip there. Thanks a lot, Andrew. The underwear, what would be your chosen garment, chosen brand recommended, for example?
I used a company called Duluth Trading Company here in the States. They just make a really high quality, quick dry underwear. But really, I think the brand is less important. You just want something that sticks tight to your legs, to reduce the friction between your legs and your nether regions, and something that dries quickly.
We get the
really
picture.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course,
the
Vaseline. I mean, come on, that's such a good tip as well, because I mean, every single day I use the Vaseline on the Camino for the chafing, for the blisters, multi-uses. That's 3 really, really good tips there, and something we never heard before, which is the solar-powered battery bank. And I'm guessing when you talk about underwear, you're not talking about, I can't remember where I got these from, but I remember coming home when I lived in America with several pairs of Hanes boxer shorts. And what are they, Walmart or something? Or
yeah. Typically, you can go find the cheaper 100% cotton Hanes. You definitely want to avoid those.
Yeah, definitely. So avoid the Hanes. That's the moral of that story. I was a student in Pensacola, Florida, so I know I came home from England to England with a lot of those things, and people were like, anyway, let's move on before I get myself in trouble. Good stuff. Okay, so where were we? Now we're gonna switch gears, talk about some. I mean, you sounded like you did a little bit of walking, because you've talked about that you were going to do some other long distance trails. But any advice you could give to your fellow pilgrims that are doing it for the first time or returning and want to improve their routines with choosing a backpack, shoes, socks? Anything you learned while you were choosing yours?
You definitely want to field test your gear. So the backpack I used was gifted to me solely for the Camino. I had not used it before. The shoes I bought about a month before I went on Camino. And also the clothing, the shorts, the shirts, the underwear, the socks, everything I bought for Camino, I bought right before Camino. So the one thing you want to do is you want to field test it. It was early June here in Texas. It was about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. I guess that's in the low 40s Celsius. But it was a pretty hot day, and me and a friend ended up walking about maybe 8 miles in the summer here. And just from those 8 miles, I was able to learn which areas I was going to have issues in, like which areas I was feeling hot spots already on my feet, experience a little chafing from my belt strap on my backpack, on your hip strap. Definitely field test your gear. Learn what's going to be an area that's going to give you some discomfort. Learn how to properly wear your backpack, the right tightness in the right areas, adjusting it properly. And definitely you want to break in your shoes that you wear. Having only owned my pair of shoes for a month, I made sure to wear them every single day, because you want minimal a month to break in your shoes so that they are properly comfortable. And then after that, for me, it was such an adventure. It was my first time to Spain. I had a small grasp of what the terrain was going to be like, but I guess just going on occasional walks and just toughening up your feet, trying to get those callus in the right spots. That's really the best you can do, because there's no way to simulate what it's like to walk on Camino, walking 25K a day for nearly a month. It's just hard to replicate it on the type of terrain you're going to be doing it too. So yeah, just field testing your gear. That's probably the number one tip I would give to all future pilgrims, peregrinos that are considering going on Camino.
Yeah, and what I got from that as well was what the point you made about looking out for your hot spots as well as breaking in your boots. And this has come up probably only once in 40 odd interviews by another pilgrim interviewee about breaking in your backpack as well. And like you said, you're going to get some chafing under your armpits. Is it going to be maybe on your waist belt because you've got it pulled tight? We'll look out for those points of discomfort and do something about them. Maybe you're going to put some, like you said, some Vaseline on the petroleum jelly on those spots to make sure it doesn't get irritated anymore. So that's some fantastic advice there. Any tips you can give on any foot care tips? Any practices that helped you prevent blisters or cure them?
Oh, wow. So I had blisters, and I felt like I took every preventative tip to avoid blisters, and I just got them. I got them around the heels. I got them on my toe tips, in between toes, on the side of my foot. I think if you are one of those lucky souls where you're just able to avoid blisters altogether, then man, really thank the gods for giving you good feet. But if you're not, the best thing is to, and you'll hear this from most pilgrims, is address them early. Try to get that compeed or mole skin on those hot spots early, and then if you're at the point where you're just unable to avoid them, just treat them. Make sure you get when you drain them, to get that hole kind of big so it drains properly and it doesn't close up right away, and just use lots of gauze and tape to really cover them properly.
And disinfectant as well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things you'll see a lot of pilgrims do, just because alcohol wipes or carrying alcohol is probably more weight than you want to carry, is they'll just carry a lighter with them, and you'll sanitize your safety pin or whatever needle you're using to pop those just with a lighter. And I'm not a doctor or a nurse, but it seemed to be the popular way of the Camino.
Okay, some really good tips there as well. Now, what we like to do is talk about some of your favourites on the Camino, and the first one is going to be your favourite albergue on the Camino, one you'd recommend others definitely make a stop at.
All right, favorite albergue. Now finding remembering the names is going to be difficult. But two stand out in mind. One was in Ponce Badon, and hopefully I'm not butchering every pronunciation of these Spanish names.
I'm pretty fluent in Spanish, and that sounds like a really good pronunciation to me. So I think that's perfect.
Fantastic. So in Ponce Badon, there was a little albergue that was, I believe, it was the first one on the left when you come in. And it was pretty standard rates, maybe like seven euros for a night, and then like an extra 6 for the communal meal. But what made this albergue so special was, one, at night in Fonsa Badon, whether you're in the middle of the summer, it gets chilly, it gets cold. And they had a great fireplace there that we were all able to kind of sit around and kick up our feet and kind of dry them off. That day I was able to avoid doing laundry because it would have taken forever to get everything dry again. But having that fireplace and just putting our feet around it was pretty magical. And then the dinner came out, and the dinner was fantastic. It was your standard Peregrino meal where they give you a starter of some pasta, some spaghetti, and then came the paella, and then they brought out a bunch of watermelon and melon and different fruits to eat. But I was sitting with 3 Italian girls who had been walking with a couple days, and then another friend, Sylvester, who was from Mexico, and then I met 2 other Americans. It's the first Americans I met in a while there. And we're sitting in these picnic style benches and tables, and we ended up having kind of a loud, rambunctious meal where we're kind of singing different songs. We all played a little game where we had to decide which song embodies your country the most. And my friend from Mexico, he came up with Cielito Lindo. I can't remember the Italian songs. It was probably Bella Ciao because they were always singing Bella Ciao.
What would a
And then
Texan choose?
well, so me and the other Americans, we were kind of scratching our heads of what do we do because we have such a young country, and there's so much pop culture that kind of dilutes the songs that have significant meaning. So we took the easy way out and we picked Journey, Don't Stop Believing. Just because it's something that I feel like all Americans, when you're in that adolescent phase, you spend so many time, like so many nights in clubs and bars and pubs singing that song at the top of your lungs. It's just kind of a song about growing up and facing adversity. And yeah, so Don't Stop Believing was our song. Well, the people who ran the albergue,
Did you sing you sung it as well, or?
oh, absolutely. They ended up giving us this Bluetooth speaker, and they were like, "Here, take control of it. We're not going to play any of our music. Y'all go crazy." So we played "Don't Stop Believing," and everybody's hopping around with wine glasses in the middle of this albergue singing "Don't Stop Believing," and that led to our the other Americans. They were from L.A. and they ended up playing Selena. And so they played some Selena songs, and then we played La Bamba, where my friend from Mexico, he started singing that, and then he started dancing with these Italian girls, showing them how to salsa, and they were loving that. And then it turned into, hey, we're gonna give two-step lessons. So we played some George Strait and Brooks and Dunn, like some good proper Texas country music, and we were teaching the Italian girls how to two-step like a Texan, and it just turned into one of these really magical moments. But it wouldn't have been possible without the freedom of the family or the group that owns this albergue to just say, hey, you know what, these pilgrims are having a magical moment. Rather than telling them to keep it down, let's kind of embrace this moment, because it was obviously a special moment that I'll never forget, and in our town with some strangers that I'd never met before. And now I will always remember Sylvester and Karen and her son and Fiammetta, Guya, and Daria, and our little dance off in that tiny little albergue in a Spanish mountain town.
So it's Fontebadon. The first one as you walk in. And if I'm not mistaken, Fontebadon is on the way up to Cruz de Ferro, which is the highest point of the Camino Frances. And there's a fireplace where you can warm your feet, and obviously you can have you got a little bit of freedom and liberty to let your hair down if the wind takes you that way. And what you're describing there, for those who've never done the Camino before, is probably a scene that you see reciprocated all along the Camino 365 days a year. It's just so nice. You mentioned so many nationalities, Mexican, American, Italians. And yeah, that just sounds like the magic of the Camino at work. So thank you very much for sharing that story. You said there was one other one you wanted to quickly mention?
Yeah, again, I can't remember the name of it, and I feel terrible doing it, but there's an albergue in Bellarado that's been owned by multiple generations of this same family. And again, I think what made it so special was the owners. They understood magic moments. And that night in Bellarado, it was a drizzly day. We came in, we had our dinner. There's a wonderful restaurant inside the Camino, or inside the albergue. And all of a sudden, this street festival erupted on the streets, where there were like little groups playing horns and drums. And they were kind of walking around, marching around the town of Bellarado, which isn't that large. But they kind of extended the normal shutdown lights out time is 10 p.m. for 90% of the albergues. Well, they extended it to 11:30, and they kind of gave us the freedom to really go out and immerse ourselves with the locals and have some drinks and just let our hair down, as you put it so eloquently.
Yeah, especially if you go in July, that time of year, what you find is a lot of the towns and cities have their fiestas del pueblo, which is the town fiestas, and there's often street parties going on for sometimes like 2 weeks every single night. So it sounds like you struck it lucky and went just at the right time and timed it right. So Bellarado, the albergue in Bellarado, family owned, and the one in Fontebadon as well. on the first one on the left as you go in. Okay, we'll have a look for those places. If we can find them, we'll stick a link on our Facebook page at the Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast. If you do find the link to those places, Andrew, feel free to send them to me, and I'll just plonk them on our Facebook page. All right, thanks for sharing those stories. From a favourite albergue, let's talk about a favourite town, city, village, or even hidden gem that you found along the way.
So I feel like it's easy to say Pamplona, Logroño, or Burgos, or any of the larger cities are a great time because, I mean, they're cities that people visit to experience good food or experience nightlife. If I'm thinking of a smaller town, Fonsabaron was a hidden gem, but I just because of the scenery, and it has like a real mountain feel for me, at least. It reminded me of some of the very remote Colorado towns that I've driven through here in the States. But let me think about this. I probably, you know what? It's Estella. Estella is the gem that I fell in love with. It was early on the Camino. Me and my Camino family, we had a great bonding moment because there's this beautiful little river that goes through the center of town. And when you walk in, there's a little park area where there's some trees that provide shade, a large grassy area, and it's kind of a dammed up portion of this river where it's pretty deep, it's clear, and after we got to our albergue, we went to a grocery store. We bought a couple bottles of wine and some beers, like you'll do several times along the Camino, and we ended up having a picnic where we all just went swimming. And there was a group of about maybe 15 of us who just had this little picnic afternoon on the banks of this river, and it was beautiful. And then while we're swimming there, these teenage Spanish boys, it looks like they just got out of school because they're all wearing uniforms, and they started climbing in these trees and jumping out of these trees into the river, and we're like, okay, let's do the same thing. So the 30-year-old, 40-year-old pilgrims weren't as graceful as the Spanish teenagers, but we definitely had a ton of fun. It's a beautiful town. It has all the necessities you need in it, whether it's a grocery store, a pharmacy, a beautiful church. Estella, really beautiful town. Really savor the moment. If you have a chance to wake up early the day prior before you get in, I highly recommend getting into town early and enjoying the river. It's one of the few places that you can swim and just really relax.
I would second
do
that.
something.
Yeah, I would second that. I stopped in. I didn't stay in Estella, and I wished I did. And I had stopped and had a little break in the church. There's a little kind of a square outside the church, isn't there? And like there's some steps going up to the church, and I have really, really good memories of that place, and that's the first time I think anyone's mentioned that, and so that's a really, really good surprise recommendation there. Thank you so much for that, Andrew. Okay, so I wonder if you can recommend a specific restaurant, cafe, or bar, because as pilgrims we're always thinking about food, whether it's a bocadillo for breakfast, whether it's the tortilla, whether it's the paella, whether it's the pilgrim menu, any place that you can say, right, you need to go and eat there, everyone.
Okay, so this is the easiest question, without a doubt, to answer.
Love it.
And the town of Santo Domingo de la Calzada, I believe that's correct. There is a little restaurant called Wanderlust. And it was recently opened in July of 2019. They had been opened about a week when we walked through. And the whole way I discovered this is I was walking through the town, and I had heard that there's some way to get an elevated view of the town. There's some tower you could go into. And there was a very nice Hungarian lady outside on the street who kind of pointed me in the right direction, and we struck up a conversation. She's like, yeah, I met my husband or my boyfriend who's a Dane on the Camino 2 years prior. We fell in love, and I'm a chef. He had a background, I think, in technology, and they decided, we're going to open a restaurant on the Camino. And so there's a restaurant there called Wanderlust, and it's towards when you're coming into town. It's on the opposite side. It's on the side of the town as you're leaving. But uh, after this great conversation, I said, you know what? You just opened up. I want to support your story. So I went and rounded up as many pilgrims as I could, and we ended up getting a group of probably 14 pilgrims. And so we came back around, I don't know, 7:30 or so, and we walked in, and the boyfriend, typical Goofy Dane, like had this curly afro going on, had the glasses, fair-skinned, but so much energy. And I told him, I was like, hey, we'd like to have a table. And he's like, okay, how many people do you have? And I said, 14. And he goes, whoa, 14. So he took a minute to go scramble to put some, tables together because it's kind of a smaller business. But for 14 euros, I believe it's 14 euros for their pilgrim meal. And this is a meal you'd probably spend about $30 to $40 American to have. It was absolutely the best food I experienced on the Camino. The service was fantastic. They sat us in the back of this room where we were able to have a large group, kind of have a rambunctious crowd. The regulars there, they kind of embraced us and bought us drinks. We were buying them drinks. And again, the food was just fantastic. I had this grilled salmon there, which was probably the nicest meal I had on the entire Camino. And again, it was just so affordable. The first course was, I want to say, some gazpacho. And then the last course, the dessert, it was a real dessert. It was some brownie sundae, I think. But Wanderlust in Santo Domingo, without a doubt, best restaurant on the Camino that I experienced.
Right, okay. Thank you so much for that. €14 pilgrim meal at Wanderlust in Santo Domingo de la Calzada. Absolutely brilliant, specific recommendation there. And I love the stories that you're actually attaching to every single recommendation. It's given us not only the information that we need, but the emotional push that we need to go there as well. So I love it. Okay, so Andrew, what we're going to do now, we're going to do some quick fire questions. They're going to be short, sharp answers before we get back to the main discussion. Okay, so your favorite Camino blog or book?
Can I use a vlog?
Of course you can.
A YouTube vlog?
Yep.
Okay. Efren Gonzalez, I think, has a great vlog on YouTube. He has now become a professional pilgrim. He's walked the Portuguese, the Frances, the Norte. Wildly helpful. And it just helped prepare me mentally prior to the Camino so much, and I love watching it after I've walked it.
Favorite food and or drink on the Camino? Sounds like you tested it a lot.
Definitely wine. Whatever the local wine is from some labelless bottle is good. Just trust the wine will always be good. And then probably the chocolate croissants. What did they call them in Spain?
Well, they like to call them Napolitanas. I mean,
Napolitanas.
you do get croissants in Spain, but they're kind of the bigger ones.
Yes.
They're called Napolitanas. So yeah, they're Napolitanas. They're not kind of like twice the size of a normal croissant kind of thing, and absolutely loaded with chocolate.
Yes,
right.
That was definitely a breakfast favorite.
Good stuff. One thing you wished you'd packed?
I was stubborn that it would not be cold at all, so I did not have a long sleeve shirt. The only long sleeve item I had was a rain jacket. So those nights in Galicia were very chilly. So make sure you bring some sort of a long sleeve shirt to keep you warm, even if you're walking in the dead of summer.
And one place you wished you'd stayed over?
I wish I could have spent another day in Pamplona. It's just wildly beautiful city. There's a lot to see. I'm a big Ernest Hemingway fan. Pamplona, without a doubt.
One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again?
Wow.
Tricky
This is
one,
a tough one. Yeah, I try to pack so light. I did bring some talcum powder. Ended up not using it once. It wasn't effective, so I would have left that at home, or I ended up dropping it as soon as I realized I didn't need it.
Hardest part of the Camino?
any downhill section. Any downhill section for the Pyrenees. Walking down mountains was my kryptonite.
Favorite thing about the Camino?
The people.
A guilty
Without a
pleasure
doubt.
you carried with you?
Probably the Charger, because a lot of times when we were walking with me and a couple of the guys, they wanted to hear music. And so when we were far enough away from any other pilgrims, we'd play music out loud on my phone, which drained your battery. And 80s kind of ballads, rock was the choice between me, the Brits, the Slovenians, the Italians. So we drained quite a bit of phone battery listening to music. So that Charger was a luxury item.
Okay, so we're going to get back to the main discussion now. I just want to ask you about valuables. Any tips to keep your valuables safe? What did you do? What did you do to keep your valuables safe?
So another very valuable item are Ziploc bags, any kind of resealable plastic bag. And what I did is I just kept my actual passport and my Pilgrim passport on me in a Ziploc bag at all times. I was pretty free and easy with my stuff, to be honest with you. I just, if you feel so safe on the Camino, everybody's so kind, and the level of humanity is just through the charts of people looking out for each other. So I carried my passport on me at all times, along with my Pilgrim passport, and I just carried my wallet in my back pocket. The rest of my valuables, I felt pretty relaxed and safe just leaving them in albergues. So I really don't have any maybe savvy security tips.
No, but definitely the
offer
Ziploc bags
those.
definitely come in handy. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Absolutely.
I didn't think to take those on my last Camino. My wife took some, and they actually came in really, really handy for loads of different situations. So definitely agree with that one. I mean, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, just about what works for you. Now, we've heard from you about quite a few really nice moments, like really sweet memories that you're going to take away from the Camino. But I wonder if you just got maybe one more. If you haven't, it's no problem. But maybe another story that embodies everything that's good about the Camino.
Okay. So I compare it to maybe what veterans of wars have experienced when they come home. It took me a long time to process what I experienced while I was on Camino. And I came away with a couple of lessons that I'll take with me always. But I think one of them I would like to share with the pilgrims who have not yet gone on Camino as this lesson of acceptance that I learned. And I learned it walking downhill from the Alto de Perdón.
Your
It's
kryptonite.
the day after Pamplona. Yes, walking down mountains.
That's tough. That's a tough downhill descent.
Yeah, the rocks are big, they're loose, they're all about fist size. It's just a tough descent when you're walking. I ended up going to Punta de la Reina,
That's it. Yeah, that's the next town.
and
Yes.
and my feet were miserable. My feet and my knees were just miserable. And I was a college athlete. I played volleyball in college. I still compete. And so I fancy myself to be in fairly good shape. And I've never had any knee or feet issues in my life after a collegiate career. And I thought to myself, I'm doing everything possible. I'm just miserable now. I'm not able to enjoy anything. Every step I'm wincing in pain. What is happening? And all of a sudden there was this eureka moment that kind of hit me. This sense of, wait a second, you're a pilgrim, you're on pilgrimage, you're meant to suffer. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But this is part of it. So this sense of acceptance that this pain, this discomfort is just a part of the Camino. If I wanted to go skiing in the mountains, but all I did was complain and focus on how cold it was, I would never be able to enjoy the majesty of being in the mountains, of being in the snow and enjoying myself on the slopes. Or if I wanted to go surfing and I'm constantly worried about the things I can't control underneath the water, that I can't see sharks or jellyfish or whatever. If I let fear or discomfort dictate my world, I would never allow myself to truly experience the beauty that surrounded me. And so once that kind of sense of acceptance really came over me, I stopped looking down at my feet so much and I started looking up. And that's another thing you'll notice on Camino. You'll have to remind yourself to look up constantly because, yeah, you want to look down to make sure your footing is good with each step, but you got to remind yourself to look up, look ahead, and to look around you because unless you have the luxury of being able to walk multiple Caminos, you may never be there again. So definitely accept that it's going to be uncomfortable at times, accept that it's going to be hard, accept that you're going to experience a lot of pain and moments. And just accept that it's part of the Camino. You're a pilgrim. Pilgrimages, you're meant to suffer. And in the grand scheme of things, too, when you compare your Camino to maybe medieval pilgrims, your life is pretty comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I really like what you say about, first of all, accepting, because, I mean, it throws me to a quote, and I'm trying to remember the quote, and I sometimes have issues just kind of flipping things the right way around in my head. But I read a quote recently, and it was easy choices, hard life, and hard choices, easy life. And that kind of applies to what you're describing on the Camino as well. You know, it's hard what you're putting yourself through, but you come out the other end of it just as such a bigger, wiser, stronger, better, more rounded individual. I know I did, for sure. And just accepting that there is going to be a bit of pain in it. There are going to be days where you might have to walk alongside a road, but they make the days in the mountains all the more sweeter. There might be days when you've got to walk through cities, but that makes the days in the Meseta all the more dear as well. So it's just about kind of, like you say, acceptance. And I love what you said about looking up as well, because I mean, if you had put yourself on the Camino now, imagine you're there now, what would you see if you looked up? I mean, what I think to see, you tell me what you see and I'll tell you what I see. If you just...
I just see the rolling fields of just brown wheat that go on forever, that the mountains of hay bales or wheat bales.
I see a church rising up in the distance. That's what I see.
Yeah.
And thinking, yes, that's where I can get a coffee, or that's where I can get something to eat, one of those Napolitanas, you know. And it's really, a really nice tip that you say that, just to actually just remind yourself to look up. So thanks for sharing that, and maybe we can circle back to how that moment has helped you in your post Camino life, because for me that was definitely the hardest thing about the Camino, going back to everyday life after such an adventure. You said it was hard for you too. Were you to go again, what would you do to make that transition smoother?
I think physically there'd be some ramp up time. I'm sure just the first couple of days my body would just be in shock like it was last time. But I think because so much of it is just mental persevering, moving on, pushing onward, I think I would be so much more prepared mentally and emotionally to just endure what you have to endure to go on Camino. The first day arriving in Roncesvalles after crossing the Pyrenees, I thought to myself, there's no way I can do this. There's no way. You can't do a month of this. And I really had some serious internal doubts. And thankfully, I had already developed a really tight-knit relationship with what later became my Camino family. And, there was this young girl from Leeds. And
how are you doing a Leeds accent? I'm surprised a Texan can understand someone from Leeds.
Yeah, well, her boyfriend was from Liverpool, so there was a couple times I needed some subtitles.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. so even I do. So.
Yeah, I was like, wait, repeat that, but a little bit slower. No, I looked at her and I thought, if this short girl from Leeds, this if she can push on she's like leaving me in her dust. Surely I'm a tall, strong Texan. Surely I can continue onward. Um, I don't think I would need that as much. The Camino definitely taught me that there's so much strength that lies within all of us that um, we haven't even begun to really tap into the internal strength that we all have. Another great lesson the Camino taught me is you are capable of so much more than you believe you are. If it can be done by a human, you can find the will inside of you to push yourself onward. Um, and Yeah, it's hard to think of how I could prepare myself more mentally if I was to walk the Camino again.
Yeah, I mean it's a good answer, and I love that what you said also about that you realize on the Camino, it teaches you that you've got so much more inside you than you ever thought you had. I mean, for me, I didn't go on the Camino for a physical challenge. I went for the adventure, but I walked 20k in a day. I walked 30k in a day. And once I'd done 30k, I thought, I wonder if I can do 35. Then I did 35. Then I thought, I wonder if I can do 40. Then 40 turns into 50. And by the end of it, on my final day, I'd walked 58k into Santiago, which is not something I would recommend everybody do. But it was just finding out what actually we can all do. And that doesn't have to be in a physical way. It can be in a mental way. It can be in an intellectual way as well. But the Camino definitely teaches you that and sucks that out of you that extra level that we've all got inside us. It gives that to us, and that's what I love about it. So thanks for bringing that to our attention as well. And just before we finish, describe the feeling of arriving in Santiago.
Oh, well, it's very ironic you said you walked 58k to Santiago, because I walked from Malid into Santiago, which...
So did I, yeah.
Yeah, we did the exact same walk going in there. It was a total spur of the moment decision. Me and my Slovenian friend Maddie. It was about 6:30 in the morning. We'd been walking for about 30 minutes, and we kind of looked at each other and said, "You know what? You want to just go to Santiago today?" And he kind of looked at me, and he was a young 21-year-old kid, former professional tennis player, real strong, and he kind of looked at me and said, "What? Why not? Let's do it." And so we walked from about 6:30, and we had our fair share of stops, but we arrived into Santiago. We got separated. I arrived around 8:45. But that experience was wildly emotional. The weather was very volatile that day. I experienced some of that sideways, real windy, stinging rain when I was on the outskirts in the suburbs of Santiago. And then that large park on the outskirts of the city with the famous statues where they see the cathedral for the first time. I walked off the main path to go get close to those statues, and I kind of got lost trying to find the pathway back into the city. And it was that moment, it was like the first time in weeks that I kind of felt sorry for myself. I don't know, it was a weird emotional time. I'd been walking so long, I was exhausted. And that's when the crying started. And the crying basically lasted all the way to the city center, to the where the cathedral's at, that little plaza. I'll never forget crossing the highway. When you get into the city, there was an off ramp for cars, and I was crossing it, and I kind of looked to my left at this woman's waiting for me to cross, and there's just tears rolling down my face. And she kind of did the sideways kind of head nod with a little aw face looking at me. But the locals were so supportive. They were just giving me a Buen Camino as I'd walk by them, just tears running down my face. And it was just magical. It was I relate now to when athletes, when they win the Super Bowl or some kind of world championship, when they cry. That was my moment for me. It was reaching the pinnacle, a goal that I'd worked so hard for the previous month, and it was just overwhelming emotionally. And I think what also, in addition to just walking in, what made it so special is it's hard to find beds in Santiago sometimes, especially when you're arriving 8 o'clock at night. Well, a Buddhist monk friend of mine that I walked with, him and another friend, they came down and greeted us in the plaza, and we hugged and we cried like most pilgrims will do. And we kind of learned that to find a bed, we'd have to walk about 7K back out to town. And I didn't know if I was capable of doing it. So he actually invited us up to his room, and showing that classic Camino spirit, he actually gave us his bed. Me and Maddie gave us his bed, and he slept on the floor that night. And that's the kind of kindness that you'll experience over and over again. It's a kind of like unconditional love that you really it's difficult to find in your ordinary life.
I normally, I normally would say that I would, at this point, ask you to say something to convince people who haven't walked the Camino to go. But everything you said, all the stories you've told, I've already done that. So thanks so much for sharing all your stories, for weaving and stitching. Sorry, there's a plane about. I live right near the airport here in Canary Islands. And sounds like they're having a flyover for you as well. There you go. There's a flyover. So there's no need to ask that question, because all of your stories have done that. And I love the way that you've stitched stories into all of your actually really informative and helpful answers as well. So it's been a really nice chat. Just before we go, I don't want to put you on the spot, because it's really hard to remember people on the spot. Any of your Camino family that you'd like to say hello to?
Oh, absolutely. There's the all the Brits, Chris and Lauren. Chris actually proposed to Lauren in front of the cathedral when we got there. Dan, Frank, Ferdinand, who walked from Brittany, Mama Camino, Luca, Maddie, my Italian angels, Fiammetta, Guia, Daria, Kai. I mean, there's so many, and we still talk daily on our WhatsApp chat. Emma, who's in Australia, Sabrina. There's so many of them. If I got married tomorrow, there would be an invitation to every single one of them. They will be my brothers and sisters for life.
I love it. You're making the hairs on my arm stand on end. Just me and my wife are talking about going back to the Camino possibly in a month or two. Just this chat is actually kind of making up my mind that it's the right thing to do. And I know my wife will agree. So Andrew Baker, thank you so much for all your stories. Thanks for all your help. Thanks for reminding us about all the amazing things about the Camino. And the last thing I can ask you to do before we're leaving is to sing Don't Stop Believing for the listeners, just to prove you actually did it.
Oh boy.
Just the chorus, a line or two from the chorus.
Yeah. Just a small town girl living in a lonely world.
If the radio,
there we go. Yeah,
that was beautiful. If the radio producing packs up, there's another vocation out there for you.
Oh, thank you for your Camino kindness and feeding my ego.
Beautiful. I'm just going to go and clean my ears out. No, I'm only joking. Andrew, thank you so much. It was absolutely brilliant talking to you. And to finish, we're going to wish you the Camino motto, which is Ultrea, move forward with courage.
Thank you, my friend. And Buen Camino to you, and hope to see you out there someday.